Welcome to the Waves Business Coaching Podcast, where you can equip yourself with the tools and insights to build the dream team your business needs so that you can lead with confidence, master your people challenges, and reclaim your freedom. I'm your host, Jacob Carnes, business coach and author of Master Your First Job. This week on the podcast, I interview Zack Zeller, who's a full-stack marketing expert specializing in reviewing underperforming email lists and turning them into consistent, predictable revenue streams. And we have a great conversation about email marketing and the gold mine that a lot of small businesses are sitting on top of when it comes to email marketing. And this goes for both individual small businesses and franchises as far as how you can utilize email marketing to one, gain new customers, and more importantly, turn customers into repeat customers that come back again and again, and how to leverage email marketing in order to do that. It's a great conversation. Excited for you to hear it today. Before we dive in, I did want to mention that I wrote a book called Master Your First Job to help first-time employees thrive in their roles and to help business owners, maybe like you, better understand how to develop young talent. If you'd like a free copy, I'd love to give one away to you. If you go to masteryourfirstjob.com/free, that's masteryourfirstjob.com/free, you can get a free e-copy of the book, and there's even instructions on how to send it to your Kindle if you're a Kindle reader like I am sometimes. So I'd love to get that to you for free. masteryourfirstjob.com/free. Let's dive into this conversation with Zack about email marketing and how you're probably sitting on top of a gold mine that you can leverage to create repeat business. Let's dive in. Zack, thanks so much for being on the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. I'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself, your story with our audience.
Awesome. I'm excited to be here. My story starts with getting an email, actually, because throughout high school was really this golden age of email marketing. And I remember I would get lists every morning before high school with all of these fitness tips, ebooks to buy, videos to check out. Maybe not so many videos with the hosting speeds back then, but I would go through and absorb all of that. And when I got into college and later in my career, I had this issue where I was president of the wellness club at my college. We had no budget and I needed a way to grow the club because I kind of inherited the situation and couldn't afford to bribe college students with free pizza to check out our club and join us. So I started sending an email every day with different tips, and it started growing, and the membership started growing, and the community started growing. And I wrote that for 3 years, and I got really good at it and I loved it. So I started my side hustle at the time. And that actually led me working and joining a marketing mastermind with Jason Capital and Bedros Koulian to continue learning marketing and kind of spend all my money to figure this thing out and kind of leave my engineering degree that I got in school to gather a little bit of dust. And starting that first business was a lot of fun for the marketing side, but running that business was too much. It didn't have the skills because there's a lot that goes in with the tech, customer service, all of that. But that was really where I caught that bug and spent my whole 20s pretty much traveling across the US to learn marketing, moving from Arizona to Orange County, California, and then to Puerto Rico, all to work with a lot of these big names in digital marketing, like Jay Shetty, Les Brown, Jordan Belfort, learning from all these people, getting them results. And now I'm here doing my own business without any partners, really looking to help people maximize relationships and revenue so that we're not just making sales, but we're getting a lot of repeat sales and growing a business, like more of a lifestyle business that you can really be proud of and scale authentically.
I love it. And I love the relationships and revenue as a key differentiator there. Before we dive in here to kind of marketing and help small business owners really master their marketing, I'd love to know, I wrote a book called Master Your First Job. I'd love to know, Zack, what was your first job?
So my first job was working at grocery stores.
Okay.
It was kind of funny because I lived like 5 minutes away from a grocery store. I walked over there, got a job in the meat department because I could lift stuff and hang out in the
Yeah.
cold rooms and do all that. But they realized that I knew a lot about health and wellness and I was an organized person.
Yeah.
So I started helping out with some of the hiring and training stuff. And I was like
Cool.
the wellness champion. So that was my first job.
What grocery store?
It was Price Chopper,
I haven't even heard of that.
upstate New York.
There you go.
So
Is
there,
it
yeah.
is it like a chain or is it this like a local grocery store?
So it's a chain,
Okay.
but it's mostly in upstate New York, Pennsylvania,
Okay.
that kind of area. Yeah.
You know, before I went to Chick-fil-A, I had thought about like I wanted to work at a golf course. That was my dream job at the time. Publix is something I thought about. Have you heard of Publix?
Yeah, I love
Okay.
Publix.
I'm like, that's definitely a Southeast thing, but I feel like they're the Chick-fil-A of grocery stores as far they do a
Nice.
lot right. And I was like, yeah, like, you know, bagging groceries seems easy. You know, it seems like an easy job. Stocking shelves. Glad I didn't. I've heard some not great stories about those type of jobs, but great company I know. That's cool, man. So let's dive into like what you've really gotten into and started your own thing a few years ago now. Email marketing. Something you've said is that a lot of business owners are sitting on this untapped gold mine when it comes to their customer base. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah. So one thing early on when I was working, I went from grocery stores to my second job, which you didn't ask, was working in restaurants
There you go.
because I figured I could make even more money for the same amount of work with tips. And I ended up working at this Iranian restaurant that it was independent. The owner literally came from Iran with like 20 bucks in his pocket
Yeah.
and started this restaurant, that kind of story. And I was talking to him about working on his marketing because I'm like, oh, I could work with this restaurant as a client too. That would be great. And he drew this on this napkin in X, and it was supposed to represent a revolving door. And he said, in business, there's two jobs of marketing. You have to get customers in to that revolving door and get them to come back in. And I know a big part of your audience are restaurants, and so I'm sure that hits home with
Yeah.
them where it's yeah, you want more people in, but if you're in a specific area, you want those people coming every day for lunch, a few times a week for dinner, all of that stuff. And with email, you actually have a list of people that either have given you their information or people who have literally been customers in the past, maybe once, maybe multiple times. And you have that contact information, you could continue communicating with them to get them to come back again and again and again and really keep that relationship going. Because that's what it is. You're continuing to not just tell them to come and buy, but you're giving them stories, value, deals, entertainment, different different pieces of value. Tactically, that's what value kind of boils down to. And getting them to think of you, getting them to come back in. If you can take someone who spends $10 with you once and turn them into someone who spends $10 with you every single week, that's a huge multiplier for your profits, for your revenue, especially since you only pay once to acquire that customer with your marketing.
Yeah, and I've always heard it said it's true. It's a lot cheaper to keep a client than it is to go and get a new one. And I think it's tough sometimes, especially on the restaurant business, to think of customers as clients, I guess. Like it's hard to think about like, oh, well, they're just like, they came in for lunch. You're not thinking of that person as a client per se. It's just like a customer. And so I think if you think about those two words as the same, then the same principle applies, right? Is like, hey, how do we get that person coming back? And that's something that'll resonate. That's not new to a restaurant person, is like, of course we want repeat business, but that's that gold mine, right? Of like, hey, especially if you have their information, which I know a lot of businesses, whether it be online orders or a digital app or something, like you have access to their email address, which I know you said like in high school that was kind of the golden age of email marketing. I think it's still something that's underutilized because you have access to their inbox. So yeah, I think it's important to think about like, hey, how can we utilize this and create repeat clients, repeat customers? I like that revolving door metaphor you mentioned. What do you think holds most business owners back when it comes to tapping into this gold mine?
A lot of what I hear with clients is almost that they're bothering people by sending
Yeah.
too many emails.
Yep.
And it's growing up. I saw this a lot, like with my parents, and maybe that's how people get this ingrained, where you need to have the perfect words for everything. Like if you're going to call the doctor to reschedule an appointment, you pause and think of what are you going to say? Or even before this podcast, I was telling you like I was practicing this with my girlfriend,
Yeah.
and you have your sheet of questions just to rehearse what we're going to say. But a lot of times when we're in these conversations, it flows. Like we know what we're going to say. We know we need to change the time of the doctor's appointment. We are going to talk about email marketing, and there's questions that's going to flow out of that. I know I've been doing this for 11 plus years, so
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about. But we get in our head of, oh, is this going to be judged? Is this going to be good enough? Is this going to be valuable enough? And that's what stops that fear or perfectionism, if we're going to put that label on it, is what holds a lot of people back. But it's kind of cool when you get an email from like Chick-fil-A or some of these brands just to hear what's going on. Or I know, especially when I get emails from different clothing brands like Aldo, or I forgot what the website is called. I think it's Designed by Human. They send t-shirt designs. And I always get curious. I'm looking to see what new designs that they have, or what new shoes they have or anything like that. And if Chick-fil-A sent me emails, like if it's relevant to me, then I think that's cool. If they come out with a new product, or one thing I think of specific to restaurants is the big thing that happened to Chili's in 2024, where Chili's was going downhill.
Yep.
And then someone posted on TikTok about their triple dipper. Yeah. And that went huge.
Yeah.
And it's like, it completely changed. It was a good time to invest in a chili stock before that came out, because they just like went on this huge, climb. And I'm not saying that you have to post a bunch of TikToks. That could be part of your strategy. But that kind of information resonates with people and it's valuable and they're interested in it.
Yeah, this is huge. We could probably spend the next 45 minutes talking about Chili's. I honestly, I've talked with a lot of clients and his friends about Chili's because I've been fascinated with their growth in the last year. But I think one of the principles here you mentioned is like, yes, it was on TikTok, but the same applies to other social media outlets, email marketing, is that basically information got out about a product Chili's offered and the value that it was, right? Like all it took was someone showing, hey, literally it was basically a video saying this is the triple dipper. And that's it. And that caused a lot of business growth. So I think an email like you're talking about, or a post or whatever, is just, hey, here's a product we offer. Look at how good it looks. And this goes for restaurants. This goes for service-based businesses, B2B. It's just hey, it's kind of like hey, here's who we are. Here's what we do. And in a restaurant case, it's very easy because, use Chick-fil-A as an example. You just send a picture of a chicken sandwich. I mentioned this too. Starbucks has a commercial that's aired in the last month. Of course, they have a new CEO going back to last year, which is huge news. This first big marketing campaign they've released since has been, it's a 30-second ad, and all it is are these cut-ups of coffee being brewed. And so like you see whole coffee beans being ground, and it's all the ASMR, the milk being steamed, the espresso coming out in the cup. And then it just ends with like, here's the made coffee, Starbucks logo. And it's just like, man, you watch the commercial and you think, I want a coffee. And I know that Starbucks just showed me something that looked really good. And it's so simple. It's just saying, hey, it's going back to the roots of, hey, we make good coffee. Look at it, right? Something you've talked about is helping restaurants drive consistent foot traffic using 3 emails a week. I'm curious if I'm onto something. We haven't talked about this. If I'm onto something here with the types of emails those are, but how do you make this happen with driving foot traffic with just 3 emails a week?
Yeah. The big thing with email, and to put a pin on what we were just talking about,
Yeah.
you're in your business, you're exposed to your marketing and what you do every single day. And so you underweigh the newness and the excitement of it. But if someone is just hanging out after a rough day at work and they get an email and they see that, crispy, juicy chicken sandwich, that's new to them. They haven't just, boxed up 200 chicken sandwiches
Yeah.
over an
Yeah.
8-hour shift. So the email content is going to be very much the same. And I gave you an example before we were on the show of this sushi restaurant that I was working with, where in Southern California, there's a place called Sushi Roku.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did this thought experiment around what would their email marketing look like. And for 3 emails a week, we would have one straight up deal. And like the Starbucks example, we would want to make it valuable and relevant by giving that a cue for when to go. So for sushi, that might be a really good date night place. Chick-fil-A might not be a high-end date night experience, but sending an email about
I mean, I'll be
like
real,
getting,
family,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
I have a toddler. Chick-fil-A is a great place to go get a quick meal, and the dining room's typically cleaner than other places. So maybe I'm that target market, right?
yeah. And I think that that's really the specific relevant messaging, especially if you can get a little bit more data on who you're talking to and you can kind of see their past orders. So if, especially through the Chick-fil-A app or, in your marketing services to kind of extrapolate it out, if you know someone at Chick-fil-A is ordering off the kids menu, then giving them deals on kids menus, inviting them to come in for like an afternoon treat or something like that, the parents are going to bring their kids in. And if the parents are already there, they're probably
Might as
going to
well buy
order
something.
Chick-fil-A
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be one email a week. I like another email based off of a kind of relevant tip or news. So we talked about the triple dipper example. There's a lot of videos out there on different like food hacks you can do with Chick-fil-A or different ways you can kind of hack the menu, things like that. Like that's a fun, kind of cool email that would be valuable to people, maybe even shareable that they forward it to their friends and get them excited to kind of come in and try some stuff out. A third email, which I especially like for brick and mortars, is more of a community based email.
Mm.
And because one of the structurally unique things about a brick and mortar business is that they're in a community, they're in an area. And so if they post an email of just, hey, here are 3 things going on this week, there's this, open air market over here that's pretty cool, or, there's going to be a big storm, so make sure you winterize your car or something like that. It kind of seems weird or it might be awkward if you think about doing that, but people will see that and see that you're looking out for them, feel a closer community tie to your restaurant.
Yep.
And it also gives you another way to reach out and say, hey, Chick-fil-A is here and we're part of your community and we all belong together. And I think that's a really effective but overlooked type of email to send out.
I want to tie this back to the thing that holds a lot of businesses back from doing this, which is, and I feel this, the fear of sending too many emails, right? And something you said that I thought was really relevant was you're in your business every day, you exist and that what you have to offer is valuable, right? But to your average customer, are they being reminded every day that you exist? And to me, it's not a bad thing. Donald Miller uses a pizza example, right? Of like, I'm not ordering pizza every night. But if I have a local pizza place or interchain here that's in my email inbox 2 times a week, just showing me again like deals, like, hey, this is $7.99, or hey, here's a new special we have, or hey, just here's we exist, right? You're just showing, hey, we exist still, and on the other side, we know you exist, right? Like you're telling your customer, and we know you exist as well, and we haven't forgotten about you. And I mean, maybe there is a number that's too many, right? Maybe it's, if you're emailing people 3 times a day, yes, maybe you should have this fear of being in their inbox too much, but 3 a week, what you're doing is, and something I've heard is like, you're putting yourself in the right place, and hopefully you're going to catch them at the right time, right? Like that's when
Yes.
sales happen. Is like you got to be at the right place at the right time for them to buy. And at least if you're in their email inbox, you're going to be in the right place, right? It's just catching at the right time. And if you're only sending, I'll say, an email a month, there's going to be a random Thursday where it's like, you know what? We are not cooking tonight. We've had a long day and we're going to go grab something. And I open my email inbox and oh my gosh, who's in my inbox? But this pizza place, and oh my gosh, they've been sending me a coupon 3 times a week for the last month. I'm finally ready to use it, right? So I like that deal, the relevant tip. Dude, I thought about when I remember this vividly. I was in 8th grade and I heard from someone at school that you could order like different things on a chicken sandwich. I was a picky eater growing up. My parents like didn't let me maybe didn't let me, I don't know. I didn't know you could customize anything at Chick-fil-A. And I remember going to Chick-fil-A, we were in the drive-thru. I was with my dad and I was like, I want a chicken sandwich and I've heard you could add bacon and I want to add bacon. And it was like this, oh my gosh, you can do this. So yeah, I mean, there's got to be adults that were like me that's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you could add cheese on this, or whatever your offer is. It's customizable. I like that tip as well. And
Yeah.
the community piece, I think, is so important. And I've seen a lot of it. There's different ways you can do this. I've seen businesses do this well, where either like like you mentioned, community events, or even like here's our team, like they're real people.
Yes.
Like, hey, this is Zack, and he grew up here, and like he's worked here for 6 months. Shout out to Zack. That's kind of showing your realness as a part of the community. Which have you seen that work too? As far as like, hey, here's our team. Can that be a good way to engage? Like we exist in this community, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think that's an interesting question because I would say there's a line of ethics that you need to watch
Yes.
where your employees are not like free actors.
Yes.
And
For sure.
I know that there was a big thing that happened with Pollo Loco,
Okay.
where someone basically they did a skit where this guy came in a sports car and offered the guy $10,000 to quit his job in the drive-thru, and the guy like refused. And it was this ad for the rich guy's like sports betting app thing, and that video went viral. And then Pollo Loco gave that employee. They made a big video and had press around giving that employee like a couple $1,000s in a big check and a big ceremony, and that went viral as well. And that's really good for brand awareness, and not even brand awareness for getting more people into the store as customers, but getting people into the stores to work for them. Because that's the other side where if you talk about community and how exciting it is to work and the culture, you're getting better people to work for you, which is huge in the restaurant space. But I do think it can create perverse incentives where you start creating these like rage bait or contrived stories that take people that you're working with and extend the narratives and just try to get views and chase that. Yeah. So I'd caution against that. But if you have real stories, and I know a lot of these big brands and corporations also do a lot of charity initiatives. And so like bringing light into that, sharing who your community is and who's working with you and what their stories are and their favorite thing to order off the menu, and then inviting someone to try it out. Like, I think that's a better way of doing that. I just wanted to caution against the perverse incentives because it's like, you can go off the rails if you get too creative with the marketing and you just let it go wild.
Makes total sense. So let's back up then. If I'm a business owner and I'm like, okay, I hear these 3 emails, but to be honest, it sounds like a lot. Someone's got to write those, right? And I don't want to just like, AI. I don't want it to sound too, AI-like. I want it to sound personal. If they feel overwhelmed by this idea of email marketing, how can they start small?
Yeah. So I do this with basically the 3 emails I described. That's the restaurant specific application, but I have a whole book. I call it antisocial because it's about using email lists instead of social media to grow your business.
Yeah.
And those 3 emails are basically sharing a case study or a user experience, sharing like industry knowledge or community based tips, and then having a call to action, which I call the invisible test. The nuance is that you're a physical business expanding into the online territory. So to get to your question, to start off, hey, you can start off with fewer emails a week to make sure that they're high quality and just increase it as you see the results coming from it. Because I think that's the biggest thing. Otherwise, you could just make it easier on yourself. You can aggregate information. You can see, especially if you're working with a franchise or a brand, you can see what they're posting on social media and share that in emails with a sentence or two of your thoughts and an invite to come into the restaurant. Because it's not like it's a it is a D2C brand, but it's not selling physical products. It's not selling information products. People aren't just going to whip out their credit card and buy from your email. It's usually they're going to see the email, and in their travels they'll come into the store, or maybe they'll order directly from Uber Eats or something like that as they're reading the email. But most times they'll like wait for a meal, wait for a lunch break or an occasion like that. So I would just focus on keeping the emails relevant, and sharing it as if you're writing to a friend. Like, oh hey, I just saw this new post, or we have this new thing come out, or hey, here's the story of Jacob who grew up eating regular chicken sandwiches, but then he figured out he could put bacon on them. And if you grew up like Jacob, I want to let you know that you can come in and get your chicken sandwich with bacon today.
That's right.
Or
these other options. Engaging.
Yeah.
That's huge. So we've talked a lot about franchises and stuff like that, because I think a constraint that franchises specifically have, or if you're part of a larger brand, is maybe limited control over marketing, and you don't get to choose like a national direction as far as marketing goes, right? But how can they use these ideas within that constraint?
Yeah, I think the constraint helps a lot, because a lot of the small business owners I work with have infinite degrees of freedom of who they can sell to. Yeah, but hey, this is your product, this is what you stand for, and this is who buys from you. And the uniqueness is really your location. And leaning into that, you can really get a lot. And I think so. Part of it is that location. A step deeper is you also have your customers' data. So we talked about earlier, if someone's ordering a lot of kids' meals, you can give them more deals for kids stuff. If someone comes and orders like every morning from your breakfast menu, you can incentivize them with like a free breakfast deal, or create offers that are relevant to them. We talked about email frequency a little bit earlier. I don't know if you get the emails from Amazon, but they'll send you like 3 to 5 emails a day. And
all the time.
It's not, and it's not, those guys really test a lot of stuff. And they obviously have a wide selection of items, but the reason I highlight their emails is because they're super relevant to what your actions are. It's like always,
they're using data to drive the emails.
Exactly. And so you don't have to have, $100,000 worth of engineers on staff analyzing this data. But I would look at the customers who are the most profitable to you. So the people who come most frequently, the people who come with the biggest groups, and the people who are new to you. And I would focus on that. So a really practical example of this is with the free birthday entree. So whenever someone joins or comes into a restaurant, I recommend putting like a slip, and you have this through the app at Chick-fil-A, but when I did this 10 years ago, we had slips people could fill out. Yeah. And we can say, you get a free entree for your birthday, just put your name, birthday, email address, and we'll put you in the system. And the whole idea is when people come in for their birthday, they're coming with friends. They are looking to celebrate. So they're not just ordering a side of fries, they're ordering drinks and desserts and typically more high priced entrees. And so you're taking what maybe even if someone comes in for lunch, which could be, I don't know, like a $20 customer value, and turning that into 4 or 5 adults for
Mm-hmm.
dinner, maybe kids, maybe more, maybe less, whatever. But that's like, I don't know, a $200, $300 party coming into your restaurant just because you got their email and you made them that right relevant
Yep.
offer.
At the right time. That's
Yeah.
right. So you and I are business owners, and I know that when I hear all of this again, I kind of go back to, okay, this all sounds great. Help me do this simply, right? Like help me do this over and over again. I don't want to be writing a bunch of personal emails, even if that would work. How can small business owners leverage automation when it comes to email marketing?
Yes. So the birthday example is great because you can plug in that data and depending on the software, basically say when this birth date matches up with today's date, send this templated email out. And a lot of the email softwares will have personalized fields where you can just say, hey, put their first name. This is the deal we're sending out. Here's the personalized discount code or barcode that we're sending out to
Mm-hmm.
them that can only be used by them. And that'll go out like clockwork. It can go out. So you pick these milestones and you send these email templates to go out automatically. Also, like for restaurants, if people eat at your restaurants 3 times, that kind of makes it a habit. Maybe they come in once, they're testing it out. Maybe they come in twice just because it's convenient. But if they come in 3 times, they're statistically significantly more likely to come in again. And so I always recommend when they come in the first time, give them a discount or incentive to come back again and then do that on the second time as well. So like Walgreens has this where whenever you go to a Walgreens here, they give you a coupon for $7 off of your next order. And it's like obnoxious because it's your next order. You could have
Yeah,
used it
yeah.
then. But then you come back and sometimes you forget it. Sometimes you use it and you get another coupon. And so you just keep coming back and maybe after a month they change that or I don't know how new that is, but I know it wasn't always you would get $7 off when you come back again. So you can cycle through these little promotions to get people coming again and again. And what happens is you build a habit into their lives where whether it's they're hungry during lunchtime and it's just, okay, let's go to Chick-fil-A. And then they go a few times. And now you're like the incumbent lunch option. And so they're coming to Chick-fil-A. They're skipping over Subways. They're skipping over, I don't know, Starbucks because they're used to Chick-fil-A. They know what they order. They're comfortable with it. They like the community there. And you're making a lot of money from them being there.
That's huge. Yeah, that's great. I feel like tying it all back together, like right place, right time with this email marketing. Don't fear sending too many emails. But let me ask you, if there's one takeaway from this episode that you want small business owners to walk away with, what would it be?
Yeah, I would. I always like to focus on the 80/20 of it. So how can we, because if you're listening to this and you're like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I read a lot, but over the past 6 months, I've implemented like 2 things into my business based off of all this information.
We all do it. We all do it.
The one thing I would do is think of how can I get more of one specific situation to occur more often. So it's like, do you want more birthdays at your restaurant? Then set up, it could just be one system to get that information, one email to remind people, but set that up. And that could run for the next 20 years. Like you just set it up once and you have everyone who comes into your restaurant given the opportunity to get on your list, know when their birthday is, send them an invite so that you're not just getting them as a repeat buyer, but you're getting them and their friends to come in. So that's more money from the original person, but also 3 or 4 more people likely to come back in to try a restaurant. Maybe they haven't tried it before and kind of get hooked on it. So I like birthdays for restaurants. But again, it could be that you look at your numbers and you say, a lot of people are trying stuff out, but they're not sticking. Maybe you just have a restaurant where people locally don't come a lot, but it's people driving through. And then you could work on some kind of upsell verbiage where it's a special deal on shakes or other things that people get with their meals, or being more consistent with asking if they want to upgrade to a more premium style meal. Like, I would just focus on what's that one thing you could spend a month to 3 months just like dialing in. So all that to say, I would look at your business, see where the most profitable customers are coming through, and see, A, what's getting them into your restaurant, what message you could send them, and then glue it together with the automation.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then that's, yeah.
And that automation piece is, I wouldn't say the most important, but again, if you want it to be repeatable, right? And not just, like we said, the thing of you heard in the podcast and you did one time and, gave it up after that. That automation piece is key at the end there. Zack, where can people connect with you if they want to learn more about your business, your book? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so my new book, before I publish it, is at fixyourlist.com.
Okay.
And that's all about creating a profitable email strategy with frameworks, swipes, and overarching marketing strategy.
And I'm doing it right now as well. So fixyourlist.com. I'm checking all the boxes of what I'm interested in, getting my free book, which is huge. And I'll encourage you to do the same. And also connect with Zack on LinkedIn. I'll link that in the episode description, as well as fixyourlist.com, where you can get those free tools from Zack. A lot of value there. Excited to get it myself. Zack, thanks so much for being on the podcast today. Really appreciate your insight. And if you're watching or listening, thank you so much for choosing us as your podcast and watching and listening today. Hope you have a great week. Take care.